All right. Whitney, I'll let you start off and then I'll start sharing my screen.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to spending the next, within an hour, I'll tell you that. We will have some information that we'll share with you regarding two of our fall grant cycles that are centered around animal welfare, equine therapy, and then our conservation and environment grant cycle. So again, thank you all for being here. And just so that you know, this is being recorded and the recording will be available on our website. So if you have questions or you want to go back and look at it later, you will definitely be able to do that.
All right. Hey, Dr. Boyd, can you see my screen? Am I sharing
I
correctly?
can see it.
All right, fantastic. Thanks.
Yes. So today you're going to hear first a bit about our community foundation here at North Texas Community Foundation. Then we'll go into the actual grant cycle overview for you to get a better idea of the actual grant cycle. And then Susan will walk you all through the application process, and we'll have time at the end for question and answer. And we will definitely welcome any questions that you all have and make sure that we can get you an answer. So just for a few housekeeping things, just to help us, we have been on Zoom together as a world for a while now, but just a friendly reminder, if you could please just stay on mute during the presentation. And of course, later when we get to the question and answer, if you would like to ask a question, please do unmute yourself. You can also drop any questions in the chat box and we'll address all those questions at the end. You see our smiling faces. Here I am. My name is Dr. Whitney Boyd, and I'm the Director of Community Impact. And Susan Van Meter is my colleague, and we are your mighty and strong community impact team here at the North Texas Community Foundation. Susan, do you want to say anything else about the work that you do?
Sure. I've been at the foundation for about 5 years now. Be 5 years in December. I guess I'm almost shy of, or just shy of 5 years. I came to the foundation from Safe Haven of Tarrant County. I ran their children's program in their Arlington shelter, and before that, I was at another nonprofit in Dallas called Mosaic Family Services. So both Dr. Boyd and I have been on the nonprofit side. Just like you, we have applied for grants. And so we use those frustrations and things that we struggled with on grant applications to hopefully make these processes easier for you as you begin applying for all of our grant cycles.
Thank you. And I'll just say for our work with community impact, so overseeing all of the grant making that happens here at the Community Foundation, but we also consider ourselves to be in partnership with our nonprofits across our community who are doing really great work. So as Susan said, my background is in higher education. So I initially moved to Fort Worth for TCU and worked at TCU in specifically looking at things tied to our strategic plan and how do we build relationships with community. I already knew that I love community, but I love community so much, I decided to leave TCU to go work in community. And I worked with a nonprofit called Braver Together, working in 76104 on the South Side to address health equity here in our community. So definitely looking forward to talking to you guys today about our fall grant cycle, and we'll share an overview of the foundation. So here at the North Texas Community Foundation, our goal is to promote change that will really help to transform our community, and is driven through charitable investments from our over 300 fund holders that were able to help steward their charitable giving here at the foundation. So we started in 1981. We are one of about 800 community foundations across the U.S., and we have a staff of about 20, of not even about, it is 20 people here at the foundation. And in 2023, we granted out nearly $40 million from our discretionary grant making, as well as from our fund holders and the grants that they were able to do. So we're always grateful for not only our fund holders, but the endowed funds that we have here at the foundation. We have very strong partnerships with the private foundations in the area and other donors who see the good work that's happening and want to invest in our community. So if I seem, it has been a fast and furious morning for me, and I think that this slide can kind of tell you why. I started off the morning talking about transportation and hearing conversation about transportation, and then I just left and heard conversations about human trafficking. And I'm now here today because we're talking about animal welfare and we're talking about conservation and environment. I said that to say that we know that there are a vast amount of needs across our community. And as a community foundation, we find value in being a solution for a lot of families who want to do charitable giving in those areas. But these are our actual grant areas of focus. So we have the animal welfare and equine therapy, arts, capacity building through our toolbox grant cycle. We have a focus in an area of support around children, conservation and environment, disaster relief, and racial equity. So if you have not, I encourage you to go to our website and sign up for our um, email news blast so that you can get not only our newsletters, but you also are made aware of our grant cycles as they become open. So these are the areas of focus, and we have grant cycles that happen throughout the year. So if you have not already, please definitely go to northtexascf.org and make sure you sign up to receive information from us. And I'm going to pass it over to Susan to talk to you all about this specific grant cycle and walk you out through that process.
All right. Thanks, Whitney. So today we're going to be talking about the animal welfare, equine therapy, conservation, and environment grant cycle. First up, we're going to talk about animal welfare. This is specifically for cats and dogs. This animal welfare cycle is only for those organizations that are headquartered in Johnson and Tarrant counties. I realize that there may be organizations that are headquartered in a different county, but you also serve Johnson and Tarrant. But we are looking for those organizations that are headquartered in Johnson and Tarrant County. Of course, that focus needs to be on abused, injured, and abandoned animals. I know there are some really great animal welfare organizations out there. Several of them are on the phone or on the Zoom call. But we are focused on specifically organizations that are not breed specific. And so what that means is, and I'm only using this as an example because it was the first thing that came to my head, a Great Dane rescue that only supports Great Danes would not qualify for this grant cycle because that is breed specific. You must be a 501c3 nonprofit. And awards last year, for those of you that applied, you remember last year we raised our award amount from 5,000 to 6,500. We're happy to say that we are staying at that 6,500. Fingers crossed, we'll keep moving that up as time progresses. And then, of course, organizations that have equine rescue programs. If you are, I'm using them as another example, the Humane Society of North Texas. They have multiple programs that address dogs and cats as well as equine. If you have multiple programs that address multiple issues that are in this grant cycle, you can apply for multiple grants, but you would have to fill out a new grant for each opportunity that you are applying for. Moving on to equine welfare and equine therapy. This is a broader geographic eligibility. We have 11 counties that range from Bosque all the way to Young. This is specifically for organizations that are helping and rescuing equine and supporting the welfare and the therapy of those animals. But we're also looking at organizations that provide equine therapy as a mental health component or with a mental health component. Organizations do, again, need to be a 501c3 nonprofit. And we ask that if you are an equine therapy program, that you must be accredited by PATH International. This is a therapeutic horsemanship accreditation program. If your organization is not accredited, but maybe your staff member is accredited, we would accept that. Just please make an indication of that on your application that you have staff members who are accredited. And because equine are larger animals, we put the award amount, whether it be for equine welfare or equine therapy, at a max of 10,000. We know that equine take a lot more dollars to take care of, and so we saw a need to make sure that that is a bit larger than the dog and cat amount. And then lastly is our conservation and environment. Again, that eligibility is our 11 county radius from Bosque to Young. And we have changed the focus slightly this year to include organizations that are doing projects such as urban green spaces. Maybe your organization works on highway medians and making sure that those are landscaped beautifully. You may be have an organization that does community gardens in a specific neighborhood. We want to make sure that we are kind of touching on all of those areas of conservation and environment, so that more people can have an opportunity to access this funding. For an education program, there's a max of 7,500. And for projects, there's a max of 25,000. I will say those larger asks of 25,000 do get very competitive. We have a very limited amount of money that can be dispersed. And so I just want to be mindful that if you apply for a 25,000 and you do not get that amount, just know that this is a very competitive process and we do tend to have a lot of applications come in for conservation and environment. All right, for those of you that are new to the foundation, we do have an application process, and I kind of want to walk you through what that looks like. You're going to go to our website, which is northtexascf.org, and you want to hover over the word nonprofit at the top, and there's going to be a ladder that drops down, and you can click on either animal welfare or land conservation. And you are going to, let's just say you click on animal welfare, you're going to go to the center of that page and you're going to see the current request for proposal link, as well as access to our grant portal. So you want to click on the access to grant portal. So either page is going to have that access point. And that's going to take you to the landing page for our grants portal. If you've applied for a grant with us before, you want to use the same email and password. If you've forgotten your password, of course, you can click on forgot password and that'll get you a new password set up. But if you are brand new, you do want to create a new account with us. Once you create a new account, you're going to be taken to your applicant dashboard. Up in the top left-hand corner, you're going to see the word apply. And that's going to take you to all of the available applications in our grant portal. That's where you're going to see that 2024 Animal Welfare, Equine Therapy, Conservation, and Environment grant cycle. And you want to click on that word apply, and that will take you directly to the grant application to begin. Once you're in the grant application, there's going to be a feature in the top right-hand corner called Collaborate. This is new. This is our second year to have the Collaborate feature. This is fantastic for organizations that have multiple people working on the application before submission. Whoever the primary person is working on the application has the ability to invite others in the organization. Say you are inviting your board president to look this over before you submit, or maybe you need your financial officer to add your financial records to the application. You are going to give that person certain permissions. They can either view it, they can edit it, which means they can add or delete things, or you can give them permission to submit. And I kind of just went over all of that right there. If that person in your organization has ever applied for a grant, they would also just use the same email and a username and password, and they'll be able to access that. And when they're in their applicant dashboard, they will see a link to a collaborative application. If they have never been in our grant portal before, they will not have to create a new account. That's a key thing to remember. They will not have to go through that create a new account feature. They will receive an email once you add them as a collaborator, and they'll be able to click on that link, username, password, sign in, and be able to collaborate on that application with you. If you have any issues with that feature, just reach out and I'll be happy to help you with that. Um, Through this, you're going to see several attachments, or pardon me, not attachments, templates in the application that we want you to use. The first one is going to be the project budget form. This is a sample, so we want to keep this in vertical mode. Please stay vertical, don't go horizontal on us, and make sure to keep it one page. Something else to think about is because this is technically an Excel template, if you create something on a second or a third or a fourth tab at the bottom, that also gets submitted. So make sure to delete those additional tabs and just keep one tab on there. Um, so filling out the project budget. So you're going to put your organization name and then the name of your project. This top section right here is called secured funding. So this is funding that already exists that you are putting towards this project. So if you have an annual luncheon or you have a donation that's come in that is designated for this project, this is where you want to write that information. And then the second information right here, this is the funding that you have put in a request for. So you want to add how much you're asking from North Texas Community Foundation on there. If you have another foundation that you're working with or a government grant that you are accessing, you want to put those amounts in this section here as well. And then down here at the bottom, this is where you're going to list your project expenses. So this is an example. You want to spay and neuter 200 dogs and the amount is $10,000. So you don't have to go into specifics about maybe the medical equipment that's being used and the amount of money for that medical equipment. It can be very simple, short and sweet. Next up is your organization budget. You'll see a template provided there. If you have an organization budget and it's one page, you are welcome to use that budget, but we do ask you to keep it to one page. Same here, you want to keep it vertical, don't go horizontal, and make sure you don't have any additional tabs with information. We're going to be looking at your current year budget and then your projected budget for next year. Things to think about when you're doing this organization budget, things like in-kind donations. If you have, I'm going to use it as an example, Petco. Petco at the end of every month gives you 1,500 pounds of dog food. You want to make sure that you're including that in your donations. Down here under this income area, you can add a line here if you want to create your own in-kind donation. But we just want to make sure that you include those in-kind donations because that actually increases your organization budget. If you have any questions about the organization budget or the project budget, you're welcome to reach out to me. When you're in the application, you have the ability to save your application and return, and the ability to submit it at any time. A few grant writing tips. If this is new to you, this grant or grant writing in general, we want you to write this grant as if we have never heard about your organization before. You want to definitely keep it short, sweet, and simple. We also want you to define what success looks like for you. What success looks like for organization A is going to look completely different for organization B, especially if they have different organization budgets or different projects that they're working on. If you have a video that tells us more about your organization, we'd love for you to add that video or even letters of support. If you have a community member who's a big advocate for your organization, we'd love for you to have them write a letter of support and attach that to your organization. That helps our grant committee members see how important your organization is to our community. We also want you to explain how your project aligns with our grant cycle priorities. If you are an equine therapy organization, seems self-explanatory, but we want to make sure that you understand that you meet the requirements and how you align with our organization, or excuse me, with our grant cycle priorities. And then lastly, this, I know this can be really hard for nonprofits. Tell us about your impact. Tell us about those great things that you are doing in the community and the impact that you've had on our community members. Whether that is students who have come through your conservation education program and parents coming and telling you how important that class was to their students. We want to hear about that impact. We want you to boast and tell us about the great things that your organization has accomplished. Our timeline right now, again, the grant cycle opened on August 13th. Today is our orientation, and you have until October 4th, that's a Friday, by 5 p.m. to submit your application. Myself and Dr. Boyd are both available to help you with any questions that you might have. Dr. Boyd is not as versed on our grant portal, so she might direct you to me if you're having an application issue within the grant portal. But otherwise, you can reach out to either of us and we'll help you with any of the problems that you might be having. And then we are looking at distributing the grant funds around mid-November. Here is my contact information. You are welcome to call me or email me. I'm usually really quick with emails unless I have a slew of them that come in, and I will answer them in the order that I receive them. And I'm always happy to take calls, so you're welcome to call me as well. And I don't have a slide for this, but I did want to tell you a little bit about our grant committee members. Our grant committee members are community members who have expertise, knowledge, experience in the topics about our grant cycles. And this is for all of our grant cycles. So people on this committee have expertise in conservation environment or an education background in conservation environment. Maybe they raise horses, so they understand the costs that are involved with the welfare of a horse, the hoof maintenance of a horse, feeding a horse, as well as people who have experience with sheltering and fostering dogs, cats. So I just wanted to make that clear that we are not the staff members who are reviewing your application. It is community members who make up the committee that review those applications and approve or deny. All right. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And Whitney and I are going to make ourselves available for any questions that you all might have. So I'm going to hop down here to the chat. And Whitney, are you okay if I throw some questions your way?
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
fine.
Awesome. So the first question comes from Sharon. I just want to confirm that Dallas County is not included in the conservation and environment grants. Yes, that is correct. Dallas County is not a county that is eligible to apply. Next up, Kristen, can an organization apply for multiple grants within the same category? I believe I answered that through the question, so that might have come in before I answered that. But yes, you can apply. Can you address if government organizations can apply? Whitney, can I throw that your direction?
Yes. So I would probably need to know a little more about your question, but this is for organizations that have a 501c3, if that helps to clarify that. But if you have a more specific question, feel free to shoot us an email and we can dig into it to understand but this is 501c3 organizations are eligible to apply for these grant cycles.
I think I want to expand on that just a little bit, if that's okay, Whitney. So if the city, for instance, would like to apply for a grant, would the city be eligible to apply for a grant?
Is that, I'm sorry, that's the person who's,
I'm expanding.
you are expanding on the question.
Yes.
Okay, yes. The answer is yes.
Okay. All right, Teresa has a question. River Legacy applies annually for the education event. How much do you weigh new classes or updates to the program over the traditional ask? We've been offering environmental education for 30 years. Teresa, are you on the call with us still? Would you mind unmuting yourself and kind of expanding on that question for us?
Yes, my question is, we've been sending these grant applications in for years now, and you've been very generous in what we've received. I'm just wondering if you want to, if you want me to focus at all on new things happening with the program, and do you weigh that when you're deciding whether or not to award?
Oh, you don't have to be creating a new program.
Okay.
It can
So
be
it's
to continue
okay.
the work
I mean,
that
I
you're
feel like
already doing.
I feel like it's kind of, I'm constantly giving you the same information over and over again.
You have a new
And I
program that
just
you
want
would like to apply for funding for, please feel free, but that's not a requirement.
okay. So that's not something you're always looking for. Yeah, I mean, we do make changes from time to time, but the basic underlying program is the same. So that's okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right. Rand, I want to make sure that we answered your question. I know you asked a follow-up question. Do you feel confident that we were able to answer your question?
Yeah, I think it's a thumbs up if I'm getting the messaging. Yes, thank you so
Yes.
much.
Yeah, absolutely. Shelby, what is the funding particularly able to be used on for the equine program? Does that depend on the different grants that are applied for? Shelby, would you like to unmute yourself? I want to make sure that we understand what your question is saying. Feel free to elaborate for us.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of asking, for their care, welfare, facility, certain things like that.
Good question. So we have definitely had equine welfare organizations apply for all of the above. There have been some that have applied for things like a farrier, which would be that hoof maintenance or dental care of the horses, medical
Okay.
care, or the food. But we've also had an equine welfare organization apply for the fencing to be able to take care of the horses and make sure that they have a safe place to be able for their respite.
Okay. Okay, that definitely answers my question.
All right.
And Shelby,
Right.
for everyone, just a reminder to, if you are curious, I would encourage you to just go back and look at the RFP again too, because we try to outline some of those things, but there is shelter included, rehabilitation, all of those things are included in that specific grant cycle.
All right, Julie, you had a question for us. For equine welfare, adoption, and rescue, is there a preference for capital projects versus programming? Or should we ask for whatever the need is greatest? And if we can receive a grant if we received a grant last year, are we eligible for more funding this year? Absolutely, you are. As long as you've completed your project from last year, from your funding, you are eligible to apply again. And it's up to you, whatever your need is, whether it is a capital project or for programming or for the actual animal. That is up to you. All right, Michelle, after looking at past grant recipients for the conservation and education category, it seems that the organizations make a local impact. Would exotic animal conservation education qualify? We would be educating locally, but the impact would not necessarily be a local community impact since it is an exotic animal based. Dr. Boyd, would you mind taking that one?
Sure. Michelle, and this is me answering it on limited information, so you may have to send more specific information. So the grant cycle is indeed meant to support our local community. So I don't know that I have the full context of everything specifically to yours. But again, it is meant to support work that's happening here locally.
And Michelle, you are welcome to unmute if you feel like you would like to elaborate on that question.
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to wait to unmute till I had permission. Yeah, so we go to schools. So for example, yesterday we were just at UTD. We'll go to TCU. Sometimes we go to local high schools or elementary schools, and we educate about the captive wildlife crisis for exotic animals. So that's more of like the local impact we make with the education and teaching local schools and students about the plight of exotic animals and how we can help save them in the wild. But it's not necessarily like a local project where, you know, I've seen like a lot of people where they're restoring all of these beautiful like habitats for native wildlife and everything like that. So I wasn't sure if we'd qualify in that category.
Okay, I think I understand where you're asking that question. So a really great example, if you've definitely looked at our past grantees, we have an organization that's a statewide organization that has a big focus here in North Texas. And they are specifically around milkweed habitats for monarch butterflies. And there's a big education program that they do here in North Texas. And if that's the direction that you think you're kind of moving in for your education and that conservation side of things, you are definitely eligible to apply.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Susan, a question that I have, it says to clarify, if a group applies for $25,000, would the committee still perhaps make a grant to them even if it's for less than 25,000? I think it's referring to earlier when you mentioned about the max of 25,000.
Yes, and I believe, if I'm wrong, I apologize for this. I believe there's a question on the application that asks you, do you feel like you can complete this project even if the grant committee chooses to fund you at a lower amount? You're welcome to be very honest on that. Our grant committee has funded at lower amounts. A lot of times it has to do with they might have run out of money, but they really love your project. And so they may not be able to come in at 25,000, but they might be able to come in at 17,000. So just be real honest on that question. If you feel like you'll still be able to do some funding if you get partial funding. Good question.
Yeah, so you won't be disqualified if the
Correct.
grant committee says we don't want to fund you at 25,000. They could still decide to fund you at 23,000 or some other amount. So if you feel like your project is a $25,000 project and that's what you want to apply for, you can definitely do that. But yeah. Are there any other questions or points of clarification?
I do see one more question that came up. It says for the conservation and environment focus area, if an organization is headquartered elsewhere but works in those eligible counties, would the organization be eligible?
I think so. The best example that I could give of that would be, let's say, if it's an organization that has a national, what is it like? There's the Habitat for Humanity, right? It's a national organization, but they have a local presence. If that is that organization, then if they can show that the work that they're doing here locally, they're eligible to apply, even if their headquarters is somewhere else. But it's about the work happening here in Tarrant County. If that's the gist of that question.
Okay, we had one more question come up. For the equine grant, could 2 items be covered in one project? For example, farrier services and vaccines for the year. Yes. Good question, Lauren.
I think one of the things that we want to just make sure overall is that we obviously encourage people to share their good ideas and share through the grant application what it is that you're hoping to do for and with the grant dollars and what it'll help you to do. essentially through both grant cycles, we are wanting to help support the good work that's happening here in our area. So if you feel like you have a project that you should apply for conservation and environment and or animal welfare, then please definitely do that. And it's for smaller organizations too. It's not, even if you feel like, oh, we don't have a massive team, if you are within your, specifically thinking about the conservation and environment, if you are a 501c3 that's doing work to create community gardens or restore parks in your area, you too are eligible to apply for that grant cycle. So
I haven't had any other questions pop up in a little bit. We are coming to the end of our time. Actually, we've still got about 21 minutes left. If you have any other questions, you're welcome to drop them in the chat box. Otherwise, we can call this the end. You are welcome to sign off. Reach out to us if you need to talk through your project and, you know, just spitball your ideas. Feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to talk through that with you. Otherwise, have a great rest of your week. Have a nice Labor Day weekend. Thanks for joining us today. And take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
you.
Thank you, Carlos. Have a great one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mita.
Thank you so, so much.
You're so
Thank
very
you, Dee.
welcome. Thanks, Dee.
Thanks to you both. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.